So Kevin Modesto is a 17-year-old boy, and he currently lives in DeSoto, Texas. But he is originally from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. So here's a picture of him. Probably can't see it that good, but he will be pictured more in the video. So this is a picture that I found on Google about where it's a picture of where he's from. So you see the graffiti on the house, and the area is very run down, and so that's just a picture I found on Google. Hello class, I'm here with Kevin, and Kevin's going to tell us a little bit about himself. So Kevin, why don't you explain to us where you grew up?
I grew up in a city called Cidade de Deus, and it's a city. It's kind of a bad city in Rio de Janeiro, and that's where I grew up until I was at the age of 7.
Okay, so do you still go back and visit anytime?
Yeah, I try to go back every other summer when I don't have track events going on.
Okay, so what is one like major event that has happened there? I did a little research. I saw that Barack Obama has visited. So can you tell us a little bit about what goes on in your town?
They have 1 year they held the annual festival. Is we have every 4 years we had an annual festival, and it really brought out the good side of the I guess they call it hood. It brought out the good side of people. There wasn't really any drug trafficking or any of that sort of stuff going on during that time period, and that brought out the good out of everybody.
So I also saw that the city is in English. Does it mean City of God?
Yeah, that's the translation.
And there's a movie on YouTube about it. Does that give us a good feel of exactly what goes on there on a daily basis?
Yeah, it gave a vivid, I guess, description of what one goes through in the city that I grew up in my neighborhood. It's rough.
Okay. Okay. So how did you play when you were in Brazil?
Most of my time was spent outside playing soccer with my friends, or we will play this game we have. It's called Bola de Gude. It's almost like marbles, and then you would go and buy some, and then the object of the game is you have one against another. It's like it's a 1v1, and so you would just basically throw yours out, and then you would just go back and forth trying to hit each other, and then whoever ended up with the most balls at the end of the game won. So really that, flying kites, and that's another big thing in Brazil. They fly a lot of kites. And soccer, that really was where I spent most of my time during the days.
So did you ever play with toys? Like, here in America, we're really big on toys. We have dolls and cars and trucks. Did you ever have toys or anything in Brazil?
I had a couple cars, NASCARs, little Hot Wheel cars, but we really couldn't afford like the high maintenance, I guess, motorized cars, that kids would have here, because they were in Brazil. They're too expensive for the general population. So those are the mainly toys that I used.
So when you're playing these games like soccer and kites and stuff, when did you play? Like typically what time of day? Did you have a curfew when you had to come inside? How did that go?
Usually I played once I got home from school, because our regular school day was 4 hours. 4 hours in school, and then my father didn't really like that. Would be most of my friends would go to school for 4 hours and then have the rest of the day off. My father didn't like that, so I went to school for 4 hours, and then I went to another school after that for another 4 hours. And so I would get out roughly around 3 or 4, and then I would just be playing in the street until maybe 10, 11, until my mom or my dad came and got me.
That's late. Okay, so did you ever play at school? Like, I know now, like, there's certain toys and stuff that kids can play with at school for learning purposes. Did you ever play at school?
Yeah, they didn't really allow a lot of playing inside the classrooms. They were really harsh on that. Like, now that I've experienced school system in the United States, they're very more lenient on the playing and the overall enjoyment of class, where in Brazil they don't really, allow any plainness, any type of activity that takes away from learning. They don't condone it. And if you do end up playing or acting out of conduct, there will be consequences.
So you typically just play after school or on the weekends?
Yeah, after school, there's always recess. We would play for about 20, 25 minutes. And then when you get back in class, it's back to learning.
Okay, so Did you typically play more inside or outside, outdoors?
Mostly outside
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know. It just I always like to be around my friends and
Mm-hmm.
playing soccer in the streets. So and I did enjoy a lot of time being inside with my cousins, playing tag, playing whatever game we could make up.
Mm-hmm.
So, but mostly outside.
So since you didn't have a lot of toys, y'all relied on like made up games and
Yeah, we had.
use your imagination.
Yeah, so it was. There's a lot of Brazilian games that I have never heard of when I came to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of games that I could tell you, but you wouldn't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, most of the times were games that we would know. We would just be sitting in the yard and we would just make up just to pass the time.
Okay, so how is play valued in your community?
Like the teachers and stuff wouldn't really allow it. Our parents, they were really strict because they knew of what went on in the community, so they really wanted us to get the best education that we could get, so we basically would have a better life than what we seen and what we was around.
Mm-hmm.
So my father really didn't allow a lot of play, but my enjoyment was playing soccer. So and that's what he's really like a big soccer fan. So anytime there's anything doing with soccer, he'll be all for it, but anything other than that, he wouldn't go for it.
So does everyone enjoy soccer as much as your family?
Yeah, Brazil is like a big soccer nation, so, you know, when you're a child, especially boys, you just grow up wanting to be a professional player, so, like, that's all that really they do.
Mm-hmm.
Really go to sleep playing soccer, wake up playing soccer.
Mm-hmm.
That's all they aspire to be.
So how does the environment and just like the geographical area, how does that affect your play?
It affected a lot when I was younger. We would always be there in the neighborhood that I grew up in. We would always be in war with either other gangs or the police.
Mm-hmm.
So usually, like when we get out of school, if we're going up where I lived on top of the hill. So like we're going on top of the hill. If we already look at the bottom and we see barricades in the street, woods, anything they could find to stop people from coming up there with cars, police cars, we would already know that, you know, it's time. The time is getting serious. It's about to start a war, and you don't be outside during those times.
Mm-hmm. So that's when you play inside.
Yeah, that's when really you be inside. Not necessarily playing, but you just try to protect yourself, be on the ground as low as possible until everything is cleared.
How long does the war usually last?
It depends. One time it lasted about 3 weeks. So just came home, didn't go outside, just try to stay watching TV, laying on the ground. But some of those last 2-3 days, some of those last 2-3 weeks. You never know.
Okay, so okay, how was your play in your country or community? This one I said, how does it shape you into? Okay, so how does play shape you into, well, playing in Brazil, how did it shape you into who you are today?
I think it taught me how to look at situations and look at different people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, growing up from where I grew up, I had to really watch my own back. I didn't really have nobody watching over me or nothing. So I can look at people and kind of really just try to get a feel for what are they after and who they are. And so I'm not very trustworthy of people just because of I've seen a lot of stuff go down where people has trusted others in my neighborhood and it's gone real bad. So I just kind of, you know, stayed to myself a little bit, but it taught me, it definitely made me grow up much faster than I would if I was here. You know, coming here when I was 7 and just seeing how the kids play with each other, they're very welcoming, very friendly. You know, you didn't have to be so protective as we were in Brazil. And that for a kid is, I feel like, is very instrumental to developing them as a character. So yeah, it just taught me a defense mechanism, and I feel like I use that to this day.
Okay, so from this experience, I learned a lot about Brazilian culture, and I was able to compare it to how I grew up as a kid in America and he grew up as a kid in Brazil. So overall, there were more differences than similarities. The only similarity that I could think of was that playing outside. When I was a kid, I played outside a lot. I rode bikes with my friends and played tag outside. I never played soccer, but I did play outside a lot. One big difference that I noticed is that he said they would stay outside until midnight. For me, that it seems very crazy, and I would never stay outside that late. So also play and gender. He told me that the girls and the boys play soccer there. There weren't many toys since they were so expensive. So it seems like it's in comparison to gender norms we have here, the girls typically play boy games. So that's what I learned from this experience. Okay, some theories that I learned while I was interviewing Kevin. So according to like the slides that we went over in class, one theory that stood out to me was preparation for life. Kevin explained that in Brazil, everyone plays soccer and hope to become a professional athlete someday. So while this is play, I do consider this preparation for life, because since it's everyone's dream, they use this play as practice to get better, hoping that they will become a professional athlete. Also, for recreational purposes, I believe that they play for leisure and fun. It was not really any learning behind their play that they were engaged in. It was just typically to take a break from school, to pass time, and just to have fun. According to the book, play serves as a developmental function. So this stuck out to me because Kevin explained that they did not play a lot in school. Like, play was shunned upon, and if you played in school, you would get in trouble. Sometimes you would even be physically disciplined. So I believe that in America we do emphasize a lot on play, just because there's toys and games that help with learning. So it's really interesting to me that they didn't use those toys, and learning was just very strict, just learning. So also a form of play that I noticed that he used was Agon play. We discussed this in class as well as in the book. So when he played with marbles with his friends, this was a form of play, as well as soccer and racing. Okay, so how does this experience impact my future? This experience was a big eye-opener for me, and it actually made me eager to learn more about play that was done in other countries. So after his interview, I noticed, as I said, there were more differences than similarities, and these differences helped me to learn about how children grow up differently than I have, and it affects their adulthood. So overall, this experience was very good for me, and it impacted my future by making me more eager to learn about children all over the world. So thank you for watching.